Well, there is no plan. The president doesn't account for what he said before this State of the Nation address. In the previous Nation of Address was Tinswalo, the other one was Tumamina. There is no accountability, none whatsoever. He uses this platform to just come and waffle. He says he's going to create jobs, but he doesn't tell us where and how. He says infrastructure is going to be developed, so much money has been put aside, where and how. So there's no plan, it's just utterances that he just makes passing time, and then knowing very well that he will not be challenged by those he's governing with.
You look at the plan that is put forward in relation to investing 940 billion rand over the next 3 years towards infrastructure. Do you not think that will take us out of the low growth levels?
He has spoken about giving the disaster there in KZN 1 billion. Those houses are still not built. He has spoken about building 1 million houses in Alexandra. Those houses are not built. So whatever 900 million he's talking about, you must know that he's just passing time. He's not the man who follows through what he committed during the State of the Nation address.
The Transformation Fund is promising for the next 5 years, every year they will set aside about 20 billion rand.
He's still saying we're going to make sure that we develop the guidelines to make sure that it is not subjected to red tapes and all manner of things. Monies have been committed before. I mean, we're still talking about water today. We spoke about water during the Guyana project. When he became the president, one of the things we said to him was the completion of the Guyana project. Till today, the project has not been implemented. Very good at putting figures, throwing numbers. Even during COVID, he was every speech putting numbers. But we have never seen any legacy of those billions that he spoke about, even during COVID.
If you look at the pronouncements around the finalization of the industrial policy, as well as making the mining rights application transparent, it's something that the AFF has been actually, it's close to your heart, if I may put it that way. Are you happy that perhaps maybe he's starting to navigate himself towards your thinking as the party?
He needs to give people permits so that they can mine in this country and stop this bureaucracy and corruption that is in the mineral department. We must make sure our people have got the rights, permission to mine. And we must formalize the so-called illegal miners, especially where there is potential and the land is safe. We want beneficiation to happen here in South Africa. He speaks about beneficiation all the time, he gets bored. But we have not done anything about beneficiation. We will never create jobs if we don't beneficiate in South Africa and if we don't industrialize. As things are now, we're deindustrializing the South African economy and at the same time talk about creation of jobs. So you can be guaranteed there is no concrete plan on creating jobs in South Africa. Concrete plan. He says we must come and work closer to where we work. But what has he done about Alexander, which he has committed to help? He's just talking. He's not going to bring anyone closer to where they work, because the people who own the land closer to where we work is white people. He's not going to expropriate that land. He's just baffling about it.
All right, thank you so much, Julius Malema, the EFF leader.
The president has presented what is called a medium-term development plan for South Africa in terms of health, but on top, the priority of creating jobs in the economy, deepening industrialization, working with the African continent and the rest of the world. And of course, that is a very sound and practicable plan that the South Africans should look forward for its implementation, which is going to contribute to the changing of the lives of the people for the better.
In light of what we've been seeing this past week by Elon Musk, but US President Donald Trump, we heard the president also saying that South Africans will not be bullied. And as a nation, we should stand with one voice, united as one.
South Africa can't and will never be bullied. President have articulated the principles that inform our foreign policy, multilateralism, fair trade, and working with everybody. The United States of America, it's unfortunate that they peddle and rely on falsehoods to attack our great nation. And they must come straight with issues on the table that they feel they need to tackle with South Africa rather than falsehood and lies. We are very clear within the framework of multilateralism we'll pursue peace, we'll pursue solidarity, and there is no turning back with regard to that. That inform our foreign policy, which is very important.
Sadly, I thought the President missed a massive opportunity tonight to bring deliberate action going forward. If you want to build a capable state, you can't afford to have any corruption at any level, especially at senior levels. And we've seen how some ministers have been accused of so many things. The collapse of local government is a function of corruption. And therefore, we needed to see deliberate action about what we're going to do around corruption. We need to be able to finance development, and I'm not sure the President is acting in a manner that delivers financial plan. I wish the President would have been a lot more ambitious. 3% is a low bar. We've grown at 1% in the last while. If we want to be ambitious, let's go for 5%, and that's what I called for a 5% plan. And ultimately, on the function of a capable state, if you want a skills pipeline coming into the public service, you need to ensure that our young people aren't just passing at 30%, they can pass at 50%, but we build a prosperous nation where our young people can compete with anyone in the world. So tonight's speech felt a lot like last year's, except what I wanted to hear more of were timelines, deliberate actions, so that next year when we come back here, we can say year on year, Mr. President, this is what you've done and not done. All right?
We can't even refer to it as a plan. This is just a reflection of a failed state of the nothingness address. And that's exactly what it is here. You can tell that this man has got no ideas whatsoever. Ever since he's been president, our country, if you look at the population rate, the growth rate, we grow at 1.3%. Yet our GDP per capita is at 0.7. So that alone tells you that South Africans are getting poorer and poorer and poorer. And this is what we're faced with here. It's a disaster. He talks about local municipalities. All he's doing is he's privatizing water and electricity. He's setting up entities, and we mentioned this actually in Parliament, because we could see there's another way of privatizing water, privatizing electricity, and then so-called introducing grants to fund these initiatives. Meanwhile, these are actually loans that are coming from IMF and World Bank. He talks about network industries and the recovery thereof. No, all those network industries, by the way, are burdened by the same loans that we've been getting from the IMF. If you look at the cost of electricity, I mean, you could get close to 80 kilowatts for 100 rand. Today, you get 25 kilowatts for 100 rand. You know why? Part of it's ESCOM, it's a network industry. It's funded by the same IMF. So this man has got no clue. The sooner this man steps down, the better for all South Africans. Because
a lot of emphasis is made and reliance is made that infrastructure development investments will actually assist in economic growth and then by extension lead to job creation. Do you buy into the sums that is put together today?
We are sitting at 42% of joblessness in this country. 42%. Give me one project, infrastructure project, that has actually had proper traction in this country, that Cyril can demonstrate jobs. None. 62% of our youth are unemployed. Yet he talks about a mobile platform, to youth that don't even have, some of them, cell phones, let alone data. What is the cost of data to even access that job in the first place? So it's just a whole lot of gumph that this man is talking about. On top of that, then he wants to talk about digitizing the identity, a technological program. You know what they're trying to do there? This is what they're going to try and do now. They're going to try and introduce electronic elections. And that's what they're moving towards. So once they've digitized our identities, which is a program they've been speaking about for the longest time, the next thing they're going to try and do is to now introduce electronic elections. So they can further rig, because they know that a party such as Wesizwe, based on their failures, is going to take over government. Come local elections, we're going to demonstrate exactly how we're going to show them in 2029 how it's done.
Yeah, jobs is a big thing, and this is the thing I'm very glad the President's focus this evening was on economic growth and jobs. That's why we're part of the GNU, and I'm very proud of the fact that many of the DA Minister's achievements to date have been highlighted, and some of their plans have been expressed this evening. But I think what we need is urgency now. The Government of National Unity has got 4 years left to be able to really move the needle on economic growth and jobs. And so I would like to see a lot more urgency on port concessions, on rail networks being opened up so we can get our products around the country and to the ports and harbours. In the agri-space alone, we've got huge opportunities to expand our production, but we need ports that are working to get them there.
John, just briefly before we cross to Ayanda, issue that you actually really like a lot is infrastructure. Billions of rands have been unlocked in that regard. There will be the biggest bridge or tallest bridge in Africa in the Eastern Cape that will be built.
Yes, absolutely, and this is another great thing. We're moving from consumption spending to spending on economic infrastructure that's going to give a return, and that has to be good for the country. But again, with all these projects, we need to make sure we are delivering them on budget, on time. We can't sit in 4 years' time and have some of these projects still languishing on the draft board. We need to have them up and running so we can show the people of South Africa this is what your government has delivered over the last 4 years.
Bulelani, Sona is about the people, not politicians, not the president, because Sona needs to talk to the lived realities of the people. Now, if you can go to any township, any village, the people are suffering. There are very, very high levels of poverty, to an extent whereby you've got people that have started something of taking their own lives because they cannot cope under this government. The unemployment rates are very high, the crime rates are high, even load shedding is back. So we as a ATM, we do not believe that it is correct for us to be overly excited by the speeches of the president, whereas he's been making speeches since 2018, but nothing is to show for it, because if he makes a promise in 2018, we should be asking ourselves that he made a promise last year. These are the results.
What would you have liked to see from him?
More accountability in terms of what he's delivered in the previous Sonas. Unlike a case whereby he is going to be in a situation whereby he's going to speak as if he's not spoken in the previous years.